stumbled backward, heart pounding, barely able to breathe as the shadow twisted and stretched, almost reaching for her. Just as she turned to run, she heard a voice, a faint, whispering voice, more felt than heard.
Help me.
Amelia's feet felt rooted to the floor. She tried to tear herself away from the shadow, from the pleading voice, but her body betrayed her. Her hand moved involuntarily, reaching out toward the darkness. Just as her fingers brushed the wall, something grabbed her from behind, yanking her backward. She screamed, whirling around to see Sarah, her face white as a sheet, eyes wide.
Amelia, we have to go.
Did you see that?
Sarah shook her head, looking more terrified than ever.
I don't know what I saw, but we have to go, now.
They stumbled back down the hallway, nearly tripping over each other as they ran. The air seemed colder as Amelia and Sarah raced down the hallway, the walls pressing in as if the manor itself was alive and aware of their intrusion. Each step echoed, merging with the unsettling sounds within the house, the whisper of wind, the creak of floorboards, and something else, a faint, almost rhythmic scratching noise, like nails clawing through old wood.
Where's Mike and Tom?
Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her flashlight flickered, struggling against the shadows that clung to every corner. Amelia halted, her breath visible in the frigid air. She glanced around, her heart hammering. They hadn't seen Mike or Tom since they first split up to explore the manor. She remembered the look on Mike's face as he pushed open the front door, the subtle tremble in Tom's hands as he held his flashlight. Had they been as scared as she felt now? Maybe they're back near the entrance, Amelia suggested, trying to sound hopeful. She didn't want to admit that every instinct screamed at her that something was horribly, irrevocably wrong. They retraced their steps, calling out for the others as they passed closed doors and decaying furniture. But the house swallowed their voices, their calls absorbed into the silence like they'd been speaking underwater. As they neared the foyer, Sarah grabbed Amelia's arm, halting her in her tracks.
Did you hear that?
Amelia's heart skipped. She strained her ears, catching what sounded like a faint whisper. She couldn't make out the words, but it was there, growing louder, pulling them forward.
What is that?
Sarah whispered, her eyes wide and searching. They followed the whisper, which led them down another dark corridor. It was colder here, and a dampness clung to the air, mingling with the scent of rot and decay. The flickering light revealed a door at the end of the hallway, partially ajar. Beyond it, something moved, a soft, pulsing shadow that Amelia's throat tightened. Every muscle in her body told her to turn and run, but the whisper seemed to draw her forward. She felt her feet moving of their own accord, pulling her closer to the door.
Amelia, don't!
Sarah grabbed her shoulder, snapping her out of the trance. The whisper stopped, leaving only silence.
What? What was that?
Amelia stammered, feeling the weight of the silence pressing down on her.
I don't know, but we need to find the others and get out of here.
They turned, heading back the way they'd come. The house seemed different now, as though the corridors had shifted in their absence. Every doorway loomed, and shadows seemed to stretch toward them, hungry and waiting. They reached the main staircase, and Amelia felt a brief moment of relief until she noticed the smear of dark red on the banister. Her heart clenched. It looked like blood.
Amelia!
Sarah whispered, pointing to the floor. More red stains dotted the floor, leading up the staircase, as if someone or something had been dragged up toward the second floor. Amelia's stomach churned.
We have to find Mike and Tom,
she said, though her voice was unsteady. They couldn't leave without them, no matter how terrified she felt. They started up the stairs, each step creaking under their weight. The blood trail grew thicker as they ascended, leading them to a hallway lined with closed doors. Each door seemed to breathe with a dark energy, as if hiding secrets best left undisturbed. As they reached the top of the staircase, the whisper returned, louder now. Amelia couldn't understand the words, but the tone was pleading, desperate, like a soul crying out from the darkness. It echoed through the hall, filling the silence with a strange, cold dread.
Amelia, do you think that's one of them?
I don't know, but we can't ignore it.
They followed the sound down the hallway, stopping in front of a door at the very end. It was slightly ajar, revealing nothing but darkness within. Amelia took a deep breath and pushed it open, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. Inside, the room was empty except for a single old-fashioned wardrobe in the corner. The whisper seemed to be coming from within. Amelia approached it slowly, her heart pounding. She reached out, fingers trembling, and grasped the handle. She could feel Sarah's eyes on her, both of them holding their breath. With a quick tug, she pulled the wardrobe door open. A body fell out, hitting the floor with a sickening thud. Amelia screamed, stumbling back, her flashlight falling from her hand. It was Mike. His eyes were wide open, staring into nothingness, and his mouth was twisted in an expression of horror. Dried blood stained his clothes, and dark bruises covered his skin. Amelia felt bile rise in her throat as she backed away, the cold, numbing realization that Mike was dead seeping into her bones.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Amelia forced herself to look away, trying to keep herself from breaking down. They had to get out of here now.
Sarah, we need to find Tom and leave.
But as they turned to leave the room, the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The whispering grew louder, filling the air with a cacophony of voices. Each one pleading, accusing, crying out. The wardrobe began to shake, the wood groaning as if something was trapped inside, desperate to escape. Shadows pooled around its base, dark tendrils stretching out toward them. Sarah screamed, pounding on the door, but it wouldn't budge. Amelia turned, her eyes wide, her body frozen in place as she watched the shadows inch closer, their twisted forms reaching out with bony fingers. She could feel the cold creeping into her skin, numbing her limbs, making it hard to move. Just as she thought the darkness would swallow them whole, a voice cut through the chaos, a voice she recognized.
Amelia, Sarah, where are you?
It was Tom. The shadows recoiled, pulling back into the wardrobe as the door to the room flew open. Tom stood there, his face pale, his eyes filled with confusion and terror.
Run!
Amelia shouted, grabbing Sarah and pushing her toward the door. They burst into the hallway, racing down the stairs with Tom close behind them. The house seemed to come alive around them, the walls groaning and shifting as if trying to trap them inside. Doors slammed, shadows stretched, and the whispering grew louder, echoing through every corner of the manor. They reached the front door, but it wouldn't open. No matter how hard they pulled, it stayed locked, sealing them inside.
Come on!
Amelia shouted, slamming her shoulder against the door, desperation fueling her strength. Finally, with a loud crack, the door flew open, and they stumbled outside, falling onto the cold, damp ground. They didn't stop running until they reached the edge of the hill, where the twisted silhouette of Blackwood Manor loomed against the bruised sky. Only then did they turn back, gasping for breath. Their faces pale in the dim light, the house was silent, the shadows within its windows still and watching, as if amused by their escape. But Amelia knew they had only just scratched the surface of Blackwood Manor's darkness. And as Halloween night stretched on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had followed them back, a shadow clinging to their heels, waiting for the next time they dared to return.